Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpert alongside Chris Palmer. Chris Palmer, how are we doing today?
Doing all right, man. Another fun week of football. What a game. Good game. Nice son.
Oh man, it went as exactly as we predicted, an old school style Ravens Steelers game. But we'll get to that. Let's get right into that in our Week 14 recap, starting with the Thursday night game. The Las Vegas Raiders falling to the Los Angeles Rams, held by Baker Mayfield 17-16 in a comeback victory.
Yeah, 98-yard victory in the fourth quarter, down by 2 possessions. That whole situation has only happened 4 times in NFL history, twice of which happening this year.
In this week, actually, this past week.
Just this past week.
So that was a good win for the Rams, a horrible loss for the Raiders. Let's move on to Sunday's slate of games, starting with the Detroit Lions taking over the Minnesota Vikings 34-23, but it was all Detroit all day.
Hey, man, you said it. Detroit's a different beast at home. They are scary at home, but now they need to learn how to win on the road.
Yeah, and they have a couple tough road games ahead of them, but Detroit still alive in the playoff hunt.
Very funny. They're funny. They're such a funny team.
Oh, man. But let's move on to the Cincinnati Bengals finally slaying their demons over the Cleveland Browns 23-10. Deshaun Watson, rough second game back, but Joe Burrow and the Bengals, they just keep rolling.
Yeah, Bengals are true to form, Super Bowl ready team. Cleveland, they don't know what to do, and it shows. Clear outmatch here.
Oh, yeah. So let's move on to our game that we were referring to earlier. The Ravens beating the Steelers 16-14, but this was a really close game. A blocked field goal, a couple of interceptions, but, man, Kenny Pickett got hurt in the first quarter.
Yep.
But he is expected to return Sunday?
As of right now, he's day-to-day. As you said, he went down. It was actually the opening drive. Patrick Queen hit him.
Or Roquan Smith.
Was it Roquan Smith?
Yep.
Yes. Roquan Smith threw him to the ground. He had to go into concussion protocol.
Yeah.
He cleared concussion protocol that day, and then it led to Mitch Trubisky starting the game and throwing 3 fucking interceptions in one game.
Let's move on. So let's move on to the Buffalo Bills beating the New York Jets 20-12. This was another old school style game. But the Bills ultimately taking the Jets and now lead the AFC.
Yeah, unfortunately for the Jets, they lost Quinnen Williams, D tackle, to a knee injury that game as well. There was a couple of significant injuries to go around this week, and that was one of them. He's one of the focal points of that Jets defense.
Yeah, and that's a rough loss for the Jets. And Quinnen Williams, we wish you a speedy recovery, along with all the injured players, because it's a violent game, and you hate to see players leave because of injury, but that's just the nature of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But let's move on to the Battle of Texas and the Dallas Cowboys just coming away with a win over the Houston Texans, 27-23. A lot closer of a game than people thought.
Yeah, hats off to Houston for keeping it close. Again, they're one of those teams where at any given point they could just play spoiler. They've been kind of that way for a year or two now, give or take. They were in the playoffs not too long ago. Now they're still a young, scrappy team. They're pretty fun. They're starting to be like Detroit last year, where it's like, maybe there's something there.
Well, they do get the number 1 overall pick because they are heading right in that direction.
The Heisman winner, Chase Williams?
Caleb Williams. Yep. Either him or Bryce Young. But we'll get more into that in the offseason. But let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants in an utter thrashing by the Eagles, 48-22. But this wasn't even close.
Philly can't be beat. They just can't. They're the best team in the NFC. They're arguably the best team in the NFL. Super Bowl ready team versus playoff hopes here. It's, again, every time you watch Philly get onto the field, they're going to be playing Super Bowl level football, and you're going to see just how far the gap is between them and the rest of the NFC.
Oh man, Jalen Hurts is looking like an MVP candidate right now. But let's move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars getting it done over the Tennessee Titans 36-22. And my God, this was the Jags' first win in Tennessee since 2013.
My God. Hats off to Trevor Lawrence. He's really starting to come about as one of the better quarterbacks in the league right now.
Mm-hmm.
Good young stud, but he needs help. And if he doesn't get help, he's going to wind up bringing his talents to another team.
Yeah, but we'll talk more about the Jags later on in this episode because they play against the Dallas Cowboys in a very interesting matchup. But let's move on to an exciting game that I don't think anyone really thought it would be. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. Kansas City coming away with the win 34-28. The Broncos putting up points.
The Broncos finally started to score some points, man. Hats off, but they are the third team now eliminated from playoff contention.
Yep. So Russell Wilson, you'll be watching the Super Bowl and that big suite with Roger Goodell.
Can't ride no more.
Can't ride. Let's move on to the Carolina Panthers getting it done in Seattle against the Seahawks 30-24. Good win for Sam Darnold.
Yeah, good win for Sam Darnold, but gotta give a shout out to Geno Smith, man. What a season. Saw something the other day from 2013 to 2022. He had a total of 30 touchdowns. He has 30 touchdowns this season. Hats off to you. Standout comeback player of the year. If you don't get that, there's something wrong.
He's absolute comeback player of the year, and I won't hear any debate on that.
There's no debate.
But let's move on to another young quarterback getting a big win. Brock Purdy and the 49ers beating Tom Brady and the Buccaneers 35-7. It was 28-0 at halftime. It was an absolute thrashing. Great job, Brock Purdy.
Yeah, great job, Brock Purdy. What's funny is I saw something about this game. This was the largest age gap between starting quarterbacks ever in a game. He is 22 years old, and then Tom Brady, of course, is 44 years old. So there's a 22 age difference between them two. And then for him to put up 35 points, again, Tom Brady's not playing well. Told you this year.
Yeah, he's looking horrible this year.
He's looking really bad this year.
But I kind of like to see it.
Listen, not hard to watch after 20 years of greatness.
I know.
It's not hard to watch.
Let's move on to the Sunday night primetime game. The Miami Dolphins and the Los Angeles Chargers. And it was all Chargers all day in a 23-17 win. Man, this was a huge loss for the Dolphins, but a great win for the Chargers.
Yeah, the Chargers needed this win to really get some more weight under their belt, and Miami kind of deflated a little bit. Pretty ugly of a showing for Miami, honestly. But the Chargers, they kept it true to formula on how to beat Miami.
Yeah, and we're going to talk more about Miami because they have a critical matchup against the Bills this upcoming Saturday. Because now games are going to be start playing on Saturdays now. So they have the primetime game for Saturday night, and we're going to be talking all about that. But let's move on to the final game of this past weekend, and that was the Monday night game. The New England Patriots defeating the Arizona Cardinals 27-13. But, man, Kyler Murray went down with an injury, a non-contact injury on the third play of the game, and he's done for the year.
Yeah,
ACL.
Torn ACL, done for the year. That's probably to me, that would be a calendar year before we see him back. It won't be until December that we see him back next year.
Maybe earliest is October, but we'll let you know as the season goes on. But Kyler Murray, we wish you
hats off to you. Now you get all that time to go play some Call of Duty, friend. Go heal up, right?
We'll see you in Warzone. But with that being said, that was Week 14. We had some great games this past weekend.
Great week.
But now we have every team is entering their Final Four. Their Final Four slate of games. Oh, and now we're getting those Saturday matchups and stuff. And hell, there's even a crucial Thursday night matchup this upcoming week between the Seahawks and 49ers. But there's some great matchups for this upcoming week. But let's start with the Miami Dolphins and Buffalo Bills. We wanted to talk about this game weeks ago. We knew we had to talk about this game. So, Chris Paul, I'll let you start.
Oh man, even a couple weeks ago, don't think either of us saw what this game really was going to mean. Not only does this mean you're top in the division, you're going to be top in your conference if you win this game. Bills, the Bills are the Bills. The Bills, they came out so on fire this year. But again, I've been saying it. I think this is going on the 4th week in a row now that I'm saying it. That elbow injury to Josh Allen is detrimental right now. The loss of that long ball is really going to hurt because this had the potential to be a shootout, and now it's going to have to turn into a meticulous game on the Bills' end. They have a rising run game. I'm not taking that away. The Dolphins' run defense is more experienced than their run game is. Mm-hmm. So they're going to have to throw over the top, and they're going to have to force it down deep, and that injury is really going to hurt.
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting matchup. It's weeks ago, probably around week, let's say 7 or 8, when Tua was coming back.
Okay,
when he came back from his injury, and the Bills were also winning games before they went to their little slump, because they went to like a little slump midway in the year after that loss to the Vikings, and then they lost to the Jets. So that was kind of like their midseason slump, and then they went to their bye week, and then they kind of tuned up things, and they started like, look, we need a run game. We're going to start running the ball more. Devin Singletary, you're going to start seeing the ball a little bit more frequently as the games go on, but they still run through Josh Allen. But the Bills have been tested. They have been battle tested. And right now the Dolphins, they are undergoing their battle test for the playoffs. And what I mean by that is, when 2 weeks ago we talked about a game, we talked about the Dolphins and the 49ers, where that game was going to be a crucial matchup for the Dolphins. I know we say crucial matchup a lot, but every game is really important. But that game was significant in the fact that the 49ers drew up a blueprint on how to really stop the Dolphins and their exhilarating passing scheme. You play man-to-man coverage, disrupt the wide receivers at the line of scrimmage, and throw off the timing for the routes. Chargers did the same exact thing last week. And right now, every team that the Dolphins play going forward, they're going to use that blueprint. They're going to be physical at the line of scrimmage on Tyreek and Waddle, take one of them out of the game,
whichever one you want,
and play man-to-man coverage with 2 high safeties in the back. And that's how teams are going to be. Like, almost every team now is going to be playing the Dolphins that way. And it's, can the Dolphins overcome that blueprint? And we've seen it before. Great quarterbacks and great teams, they do that. Remember last year with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, every team was playing cover 2 on them. Cover 2 zone, getting pressure on with their front 4. And it was just the blueprint that teams used for it. But it forced the Chiefs to start running the ball more and taking short passing plays to counteract that.
What's funny, think about this year with the Dolphins, they have to keep 2 high safeties. They're going to man cover 2. Who was on the team last year on Kansas City?
Oh, Tyreek.
Who's on the team now?
Oh, Tyreek.
Oh, so it's almost like you have to have a second safety in the back for the fastest man in the game.
Exactly.
So it's a lot easier. You sign out, to your point, you take out Jalen Waddle, one of the nastiest route runners and catchers in the game. And then you give him free speed, he's gone. And then you have Tyreek Hill on the other side. You take Jalen Waddle out and leave it to a guy who runs fast straight. You have 2 safeties on the top, you're going to have a terrible time every time.
It just seems to be the way that teams are going to be playing the Dolphins. We're just going to be seeing a lot of that going forward. And the Bills, they have the personnel, they have the blueprint, and now they have the home field advantage too,
right,
in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And
that's the big question.
And we're in New York, so we understand the weather here.
It's cold.
But this weekend we're getting like a nor'easter.
Yeah.
And in Buffalo,
it's going to snow.
It's looking like it's going to snow. And man, it's going. The teams that succeed in the snow are the teams that are able to run the ball. And the Bills have been setting up their run game for the past couple weeks. We saw it against Green Bay. We saw it against the Jets. We saw it against Belichick a couple weeks ago. So we're seeing the Bills integrate a running game. They're at least trying to run the ball. It's perfect for this game in particular, because you run the ball in the snow well, create, take that time of possession, keep that offense for the Dolphins, keep them off the field, let them get cold on the bench, and that's how you do it. The Dolphins, they don't really have much of a run game. They have started running better with the acquisition of Jeff Wilson from the 49ers, and they also have Raheem Mostert, who is still good, but they don't run the ball that much.
They don't run the ball like they should.
Yeah, exactly. They don't run it like they should. But if they would have established it at the beginning of the season, it would have been so beneficial to them at this point in time, because then they would have the option to run teams out of man coverage. Now you kind of just have to take what the defense gives you, still run the ball, but obviously there's still all their playmaking and all their ability to score derives from the passing game.
Oh, for sure.
So this is going to be a tough matchup for the Dolphins. And also, on the flip side, it's going to be tough for the Bills, because now the Dolphins have a good pass rush with Bradley Chubb in there. They can still put pressure on Josh Allen and those wide receivers. They play much like the Bengals, where they have a good front seven. No really superstar on the team on the defensive side of the ball, but they play
tough.
But they play tough. They play extremely tough.
Yeah. And more so to the Bills, with the signing. As of this recording, they just signed Cole Beasley back.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So it's going to be Cole Beasley's first time back in uniform, going up against a division opponent. So that's going to help with bringing in the meticulous play calling, because he's a route running receiver. He's not a fly guy.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to help for Buffalo immensely. But again, that front seven of the Dolphins, man, they don't give anything up either. Their zone coverage, their pass coverage, and their run coverage is pretty top notch. Their issue is the deep ball. You have Stephon Diggs go for a deep post. Their safeties they're not what they were. They're not what they could have been when they used to have Minka Fitzpatrick. Thank you, Miami. Thinking about what that team would have been had Minka stayed on that defense, it's pretty scary. But they have holes at safety, but Josh Allen needs to force it there. That can lead to a lot of mistakes. I see a big turnover coming from Josh Allen late in this game that's going to flip this whole game on its head.
It very well could, and that's the thing too, is like these games, they come down to just one play. All it takes is just one play to just change the whole tide of the game. If you remember their previous matchup earlier in the year, and let's go way back. This was week 3? Yeah, this was week 3. So this was still when the sun was shining. It was shining bright. But it came down to a couple plays at the end. The Bills did have a chance to win that game. They missed a field goal earlier on in the game. They didn't have good clock management at the end, which cost them, because they ran out of timeouts and the clock kept running. And,
yep, I remember that.
And so all it takes is just one play. Oh, that was the game of the butt punt.
That was the butt punt.
That was the butt punt. If you all remember the butt punt, and
that was the butt
and
punt.
The Dolphins won because of that. Not because of it, but you guys get the point. It just takes 1 to 2 plays to just change the whole game on its head.
Yeah, for sure. So that's really what there is to watch out for. This is just, even on the defense for the Bills, Tre'Davious White, got to watch out for him to make a play.
Yeah.
Really got to watch out for him to make a play.
Absolutely. And I will say this too. I do like this coaching matchup between Mike McDaniels and Sean McDermott. I think, again, this is going to be similar to what Week 3 was, a chess match. This is just going to be a chess match between the two of them. They both have an idea of what they want to do with the ball and how they want to make their progressions and how to stop their progressions as well. But it's 4 quarters. It's going to be a whole 60-minute game. One play could change it all. Now, if the Dolphins win, they don't get the division. They're still a full game behind the Bills. They would need the Bills to lose this game and another game, and the Dolphins win out.
Based on record alone.
And so, yeah, because at this point in time, the Bills are 10-3, and the Dolphins are 8-5.
Okay.
Heading into this week. So if the Dolphins win, they become 9-5, and the Bills are 10-4.
So they're still.
They would still need the Bills to fall another point, and then they could take the division if they win out as well.
Right.
So, but if the Dolphins lose this game, they fall to 8-6, and they're going to be competing against the Patriots for a wild card spot. And so this game really determines for the Dolphins. It's like, hey, look, are you going to be securing your playoff spot with a win this week, or are you going to be fighting until week 18 with the Patriots and Chargers, who you just lost to, for a wild card spot? Oh, and Cincinnati and the Ravens.
The Jets.
And the Jets. So all these teams are in play for wild card spots, but it really hurts their chances if they lose to the Bills.
Yeah. Must-win games for everyone here out in the AFC.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I've said it since week one that every game is a must-win. You can't fall behind. If there was ever a time where you cannot fall behind, it's now. Here, the Final Four are the most pinnacle, important games of the season. This will put playoff contenders out of contention. People who are in the hunt, put them in the wild card spot. Mm-hmm. Teams will start to clinch. Philly had just clinched after winning Sunday. So this is where it's all starting to break down. The bracket is being built right now.
Yeah, and you're going to start hearing us say the word clinch a lot. And for those who don't know, clinch is the term where a team guarantees that they will be in the playoffs. Like they are mathematically guaranteed a spot in the playoffs. Yeah. So based on record, Philly is being 12-1. They have clinched a playoff spot. Now, theoretically, they can lose their division if they lose out and Dallas wins out. And Giants and Washington are still in play too, and we'll talk more about them as well. But for the Dolphins, Dolphins and Bills, if the Bills win this, they nearly guarantee a clinch in their division. They guarantee you they clinch a playoff spot if I'm not mistaken, but they will definitely they're going to be in the playoffs.
If they win this game, they go to what?
The Bills?
Yeah,
they would go to 11-3.
They would probably clinch
a playoff
spot. Yes. Then they would have to win one more game probably to clinch the division.
They would need to win one more. Miami would need to lose one more.
Right.
So it's all like there's just so many possibilities that can happen from now until the end of the season. But if Miami has any dreams of making the playoffs, it starts here. The playoffs start now for Miami.
This should be a playoff game. It should feel like a playoff game. Every game from here out should have that playoff vibe to it.
And that's the thing. The Dolphins, their playoffs start now because if they can't, they have a tough slate of games ahead of them, a tough Final Four. But if they win majority, they're in.
Yeah, this game's going to be fun.
This game is going to be phenomenal, and I cannot wait, and it's going to be Saturday night in primetime. So let's move on to Sunday for some slate of games there, starting with the Jets and the Lions. Now, I know what you're thinking, Jets and Lions. Why do you want to talk about this game after you're talking about basically a playoff matchup between the Bills and Dolphins?
This could very well be a playoff game, too.
Both teams are fighting for their playoff lives right now. The Jets are clawing and scratching to stay alive. They have been on a slump starting with a couple weeks ago, even after they beat the Bills. After that, they lost to Chicago. They lost to Minnesota. They just lost to the Bills again. The Bills for the first time this season, but they have a tough road ahead of them, and they got swept by the Patriots in that ugly game. So the Jets are on a really bad slump, but they have been playing well with Mike White. They've been playing a lot better football with Mike White under center, which is crazy to think about because he had to get an ambulance assigned to him last week.
Listen, all hats off to him, man. He got hit so hard. He got rushed into the room. They thought he had broken his ribs. Came back out, got hit again in the midsection. Came back, went out, came back in, finished the game, and then he went to be tested for internal injuries, like internal bleeding. So I can't take anything away from him. But on the Lions side, man, welcome back, Jameson Williams. Gotta welcome him back. Alabama wide receiver tore his ACL in the BCS game. Hasn't played a snap up until last week and got his first career touchdown.
A 40-yard bomb by Jared Goff. So good. Welcome to the NFL, Jameson Williams.
Welcome to the NFL, Jameson Williams. And the Lions are fun. They're a lot of fun.
Now, we talked about the Lions earlier on in the season, but since the midpoint of the season, they've actually won 5 of their last 6 games. So they are now 6-7 and alive for a playoff spot. They're in the hunt right now. They're not in the bracket yet, but
they're lingering.
They have a good chance to go because they play. I wrote it down here. So the Lions play the Jets this week. They play Carolina, Chicago, and Green Bay. All of those games are winnable.
Yeah.
You look at that for the Lions. The Lions are their offense. It's crazy because the Lions have a top 5 offense in the league. Ridiculous to think about.
Something we haven't heard about in our lifetime.
The Lions have a top 5 offense in the league, but they have a bottom 20 defense. So then they play better at home, and they don't play that well on the road. For this season, their record on the road is 2-3. So they've only won 2 road games, but they're going to be in MetLife this Sunday, and they've beat the Giants here a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, but the
Jets are a different team.
The Jets fan base is a lot more hostile than the Giants.
Oh, I know.
You know, we're in New York, so we know you can always tell who's a Giants fan and who's a Jets fan. The Jets fan is always the loudest one in the room. It's just what it is.
Typically, yeah.
They're more hostile than Giants fans because of how many years of turmoil there have been. You know, they don't have 2 Super Bowls in their lifetime to be like, okay, we were this good then. They don't have that, so they're just salty.
Well, to Jets, a Super Bowl is just a fantasy to them. But nevertheless, But the playoffs, that could be a reality for them. Let's talk about that.
It'd be a very real reality for the Jets.
The Jets can make the playoffs. Now, let's be honest here. What do the Jets value more? An appearance in the playoffs or the opportunity to be a better team in the offseason? I think it starts by not by drafting or anything, but by dedicating to the team to Mike White.
Yeah, no, you got to invest in Mike White. Sure.
The team is just gravitating towards this guy because he just plays with so much machismo, and like he just plays with so much balls that they just absolutely love playing with him. But I will say this though, this is a good matchup. Both teams Jets are fighting for their chance to stay in the playoffs. And the Lions, they have to basically win out in order to get in. Both teams, if they lose 2 games in the month of December and January, you're pretty much out. Because the Jets in the AFC, it's crowded. The Lions, they just lost so many games before that they could have won that would put them in better standings. But now they got to compete against the Commanders. They got to compete against the Giants. They got to compete against Dallas. The whole NFC East for a playoff spot. And even though they beat the Commanders and they also beat the Giants, they're just that far behind them.
Yeah, they kind of dug themselves into that hole, But listen, if neither of these teams make it next year, there is not a single head next season who is not keeping their eyes fixed on the both of them. Because for a couple of years now, both of these teams in the offseason have made proper moves in either the draft, during offseason free agency, what have you. The Lions, when they drafted Aiden Hutchinson, that's a big move on their defense. They need a couple more pieces on their defense. So we'll have to really see how they make their moves. Jets could still play spoiler. I've been saying that for a couple weeks now. They could play spoiler and start winning games that make playoff contenders really start to question. Like last week, I thought the Jets were going to win. They wound up not. But a lot closer than an 8-point game against a Super Bowl favorite earlier this year.
Yeah.
That's not something to bat your head at.
Yeah, I will say this, though. For the Jets, they have really overachieved the season by anyone's expectation, by even Jets fans' expectations. They have overachieved as a team, which is, hey, you got 7 wins. You found the quarterback that you want. You have a stellar running game, an almost elite defense. Almost. You're just a couple pieces away.
One more
you
safety.
The defensive rookie of the year in Sauce. You have a great run stop in the Williams brothers. Great running back. You have the blueprint. You have the foundation to win games.
Not forget, they still have C.J. Mosley.
I do have C.J. Mosley. That is right. And they have the blueprint to be a really good team. I think next year is probably the best. We'll probably see the most out of that Robert Saleh Jets team next year.
Yeah,
but this year, to make the playoffs would be an astounding thing for the Jets, and it's possible. But it starts with this game, and it's going to be tough because the Lions are on fire, the Jets are cold, and it's going to be cold in New York. It's going to be one of those rainy games. Actually, no. It's raining on Thursday and Friday. Should clear up for that game.
It's going to be cold.
It's going to be cold that day. So, but if the Jets have any playoff hopes, it starts with this game too.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It starts with this game. This game is going to be a lot of fun from 2 underdog teams that have been habitually bad throughout history. Jets and Lions that are finally starting to come through the ranks and show that all the years of beatings are starting to pay off, because now we're going to start giving out a couple beatings ourselves.
I like the coaching between Dan Campbell and Robert Saleh.
Mm-hmm.
I like it more so with Dan Campbell. He plays so motivated, and I would run through a brick wall for that man. And I'm not even a Lions fan, but
a lot of love for Detroit.
There's a lot of love for Detroit, and I got to say, Jared Goff is also playing well. Shout out to him. He's playing great. I think I wrote down his stats. He has 3,300 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. So
right system fits whoever it is. That's
solid,
what the season's really showing.
Absolutely.
You look at Taylor Heineke in Washington. You look at Mike White in New York. You look at Jared Goff in Detroit. Look at
Geno Smith.
Look at Geno Smith in Seattle. Look at Baker Mayfield apparently in L.A. 2 days after getting signed, didn't even know the playbook, makes a historical run.
He says, I will win that game.
He says, I will win us this game.
The right quarterback and the right coach, sometimes it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
And the Lions, they're looking good. Mike White and the Jets, they're looking great too. So I'm excited for this game.
I'm very excited for this game.
So let's move on to another crucial playoff matchup. It seems this is going to be the theme for this week, but the Titans and the Chargers.
It's very fitting that it's the AFC too.
Oh man, this is a great AFC matchup. Tell me, first of all, what are your thoughts on this game?
This game, if you were to ask me what my thoughts of this game were going to be at the beginning of the year, I'd say this has game of the year potential.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you look at both of these teams, clear cut. there's no clear-cut winner. There really isn't. You know, they are very evenly matched. Justin Herbert is the much better quarterback, obviously. He has much more to do, much further to go in his career. That Chargers defense is absolutely disgusting on the front seven. So that'll be a great way to do what everyone can do best now, and that's stump Derrick Henry at the line of scrimmage. You know, you stop him there, he'll never get started.
Mm-hmm.
But you give up a couple 7, 8, 9, 10-yard runs, he's going to be off to the races before you know it.
Oh, yeah.
And the Chargers, they know that, and they're smart, and their coach is smart. But also, so is Mike Vrabel. This is like this is a mirror match between the two of them. I'm excited for this game.
I don't know if it'd be a mirror match because it's going to be physical. It's definitely going to be a physical game. But the way that both of these teams are going to be able to score points is going to be a little different. The Titans, their team is basically Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
He is the Tennessee Titans. He has just about 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns this season. That's a pretty good season. Now, by his standards, it's a little subpar, but there have been 4 games this year where he's run under 60 yards, which is crazy to think about. Against the Eagles, he had 38 rushing yards. Against the Bengals, he had 31. Against the Bills, he had 25. These are games where it's like, look, these are the big dogs of their respective conferences.
Of the league.
These are the best of the best. And for the Titans, it's like, look, we see that they can win games.
Mm-hmm.
They just can't win games against the best teams. And that's the thing is like when you're going to the playoffs and the Titans look to win their division, they look to be the leader of the AFC South. If they are to make the playoffs, they're going to be playing against the best of the best. Right. So, and it doesn't help their case that they're losing these teams against these teams where it's like, look, you should be in these games. And for the most part, they are. Except the Bills, they got blown out 41-7 earlier in the season. Against the Chiefs, they didn't have Ryan Tannehill, but they still managed to stay in the game and force the Chiefs to overtime. It took Mahomes a historic effort in order to beat them. The Bengals, Joe Burrow, he's just the better quarterback. I was able to score. But honestly, for the Chargers, they're not the same caliber as all those other teams. They're a little bit B tier, if I'm to put a phrase.
Titans?
The Chargers.
Oh, the Chargers.
The Chargers and the Titans are both B tier teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for the Chargers, they have a different style. Again, for the Titans, they just run through Derrick Henry. For the Chargers, it's all Justin Herbert. Mm-hmm. If they didn't have Justin Herbert, they would cease to be.
They'd be the Chargers of old when Phillip Rivers was there.
But they have a great balance in offense. They can run it very well, and they can pass it very well. And now they have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen healthy. That's huge for them.
Especially now, because it's so late in the year, and they've been succeeding without them healthy. Now we're going to see the magic that was there last year.
They've been staying afloat for now. They're 7-6 at this point in time.
All they needed was to bide their time.
The Titans are 7-6. So if I will say this though, if the Titans lose this game, it opens the door for the Jags to be a part of the AFC South conversation.
That's what's crazy here.
Because Titans would be 7-7, and the Jags are 5-8, and they end off on the Titans. If they win 2 games more, if they win 2 games before they meet the Titans, and the Titans lose 2 games before them, that matchup is going to be so crucial.
It's a win and you're in for both of them at that point.
But we'll talk about that if the time comes. But the Titans need to really take care of business, and they really need to kind of understand why they've been losing these games. Obviously, not every team is shutting out Derrick Henry,
But it's that defense.
But their defense is very suspect. Their defense cannot really stop the elite players.
Right. That was their issue last year, too. Pretty sure they were like 27th overall defense last year.
Yeah, right now I believe the Titans have the 16th or 17th ranked scoring defense.
Okay, so they got substantially better since last year.
They're better, but they're not
still ain't
there yet. Yeah. So, and the Chargers, they're getting healthy at the right time now. They're getting players back. And now players are starting to get healthy and starting to get reps with each other. We're starting to see Kyle Van Noy get reps with Khalil Mack.
Scary.
And we're starting to see Derwin James start to get reps with Asante Samuel Jr. too.
Again, scary.
So,
and don't forget, you also still have Joey Bosa.
I'm not sure if he's hurt or not.
He's not playing as much because Kyle Van Noy is doing real well.
I think he's on rotation now because he's still harboring an injury. But even still, the Chargers are getting healthy at the right time. The Titans, their wide receiver Traylon Burks, he's hurt. So the Titans are still kind of holding on. And this is a really important game for them because if they win this, they get a little separation. They get a little breathing room within that division. And the Chargers, it's a lot harder of a climb to get into the playoffs. It does help that you beat the Dolphins. But you also got to compete against the Jets, the Patriots, the Dolphins, the Bengals, the Ravens. You got to compete with all these other teams because the AFC is crowded. It's so crowded in the AFC. But Justin Herbert, he's playing phenomenal. He has 3,700 yards, 21 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So he's passing for so much yardage, nearly 300 yards a game. But sometimes that's not enough.
No, but that's where the run game really comes into play. Like you can get all those yards, but if you're leaving too much time on the clock with those yards, you're leaving the team ready to come in the game. And when it comes to the Titans, you can't do that because that's leaving Derrick Henry enough time on the field to warm up. Mm-hmm. And again, we were just saying that if he warms up, he will not stop. So that's where Austin Eckler is going to have to come into play. And I love Austin Eckler. I feel like he's a very slept-on back in the game.
Oh, absolutely.
His nickname is Pound for Pound because of his size. He's pound for pound one of, if not the strongest people on the field when he steps on.
Oh, yeah.
The way that man moves piles, he's a north-south runner at 5'10".
And he's a two-way back.
Two-way back. He can also catch the ball. Very efficiently. He has the hands of Christian McCaffrey, and he doesn't get hurt. So he's reliable. So he's a reliable Christian McCaffrey. That's something people really don't understand when it comes to just how valuable Austin Eckler is. So if Austin Eckler has a great game, the Titans are going to be in a real bad way.
Oh, absolutely. This is going to be a phenomenal game to watch.
I'm excited for this game. This could be game of the week, but it could also turn out to be a roll.
I think this is going to be more so a chess match than anything else, but I'm excited for it. I think this is going to be a great game to watch and just a little taste of what the playoffs have in store for us.
Yep, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
So let's move on to we mentioned them before, the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Now, again, you're probably thinking, why this game? But like we said before, if the Titans lose this, the Jags could very well sneak into the playoffs. They have a tough schedule ahead of them. They have Dallas, they have the Jets, Houston, and then they end off with the Titans. But they could do it. They're still alive.
They could absolutely just do it, man. Hats off to Trevor Lawrence. He is really showing out as breaking to be one of the better quarterbacks in this league. Mm-hmm. I still think it's very unfortunate he's in Jacksonville, but he's starting to uplift them again. And now it's time for the franchise to buy back into him. Mm-hmm. Get him the pieces that he needs. Get him the offensive line he needs. Get him another piece. And don't get rid of him. Why would you get rid of Chark? That was his piece, and now he's gone. You shouldn't have done that. But now it's time to replace him in the draft and then move on from here. But from here, moving forward, they could just be that team that slips in.
They
But it
very well
starts here.
could. It does start here. And I will say this, though. The reason they're alive in this game is because the Texans played the Cowboys very well. Very well. In fact, they had the lead at a couple points in that game against the Cowboys that everyone thought, including us, we thought it was going to be an absolute blowout on the Cowboys' part after they put up a 50-burger the week prior. But the Texans brought them to the wire. And they could have won that game if not for a couple plays going their way. The Texans could have beat the Cowboys. And the Jags right now, they're on a roll right now. They just beat the Titans. They beat their divisional leader, put up a 30 spot on them. And the Cowboys roll into Jacksonville. If the Cowboys are sleeping, the Jags could really take advantage of this.
Yeah. If the Cowboys come out, we know that they just have the chance to do where they come out, they don't play well. They come out like they played last week. Jags could kind of stomp on them a little bit, man. The Jags get a little bit of momentum and they roll. They know how to play and they know how to play fast. So do the Cowboys, but sometimes the Cowboys can't get out of their own way.
Yeah. And the Cowboys really need to just be a dedicated running team. We know that the stat where it's if they run more than they pass, they win 80% of the time.
Right.
But they, for some reason, they just call so many passing plays that they just don't need. Where it's like, why are you – Dak Prescott should not be throwing 40 times a game.
Not anymore.
No. He needs to be throwing 25 times a game, and you need to split carries between Zeke and Pollard about 20 to 30 times a game. You need to give mostly Tony Pollard the good amount of runs.
You gotta let that bet eat.
Let Tony Pollard eat. Zeke, he's always eating, but he's not always eating yards.
No, but that's the problem.
But that's the thing. But they are a substantially better team when they run the ball, dominate time of possession, take control of the game, and then you force the other team to have to throw the ball, and it makes the difference in the world because now you let your edge rushers, your great edge rushers and Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, and just come in and put pressure on that quarterback and just hunt and just put the dogs on the quarterback. And so we know that offensive line for the Jags is not that good. And last week, Micah Parsons, he had 0 sacks. He is hungry. He's looking at this Jags offensive line. He says, I want to eat.
He's salivating at the idea of this offensive line. And you know who else is really salivating right now? Trayvon Diggs. Because he's also going to be chomping at the bit to catch a nasty interception in lieu of Micah Parsons' pass rush. Them two are an insane tandem. And then you have Leighton Vander Esch in the middle, who can also really help with that the run stop because the Jags really don't have a running back either. As of right now, on paper, the Cowboys should blow out the Jaguars. They really should. They're fit to blow them all out of the water. But the Jags have been playing consistent. They play consistent. They play together. They play as a team, and they might win this game.
They very well could.
They really might well win this game.
It's like we said earlier in the season. It's not necessarily who you play, but when you play them. And right now, the Cowboys are playing the Jags at probably the time where it's like, look, we're going to be playing you at your best. This is right now, the Jags are on a roll. They're winning some good games, and they're alive. And they're very much alive for it. And earlier this season, I probably would have not liked to watch this game, but I actually do want to watch this game. This looks like to be a really good game because it's like, if the Jags want to be in the playoffs, show us. From this game, because the Cowboys are probably going to be in the playoffs. If you want to be a playoff team, show us. How do you play against other playoff teams?
Right, prove it.
We've seen that you could beat the Titans. but that's AFC South. That's divisional opponent. How do you play against an NFC team who the NFC looks to have, honestly, the best defenses in the league this year? You have Philly, the 49ers, and Dallas have like top 5 defenses amongst all of them. And so it's like, look, you're going to be playing against a defensive juggernaut coming to your building. If you want to be a playoff team, show us.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. This is going to be like a prove-it game. You want to be there. You're middle of the road in the AFC right now. You're going to go up to the middle. Cowboys are like a middle of the road NFC team. So this is you on the other side of the pond. Prove it. They're going to prove it on their end. You need to prove it now.
Yep.
That you deserve a playoff spot. You win this game, there won't be many doubters left for the Jaguars saying that they are a playoff team. This game is going to get very exciting, going to get chippy. I have an old school feel to this game. It's going to be a low scoring, tough game. Tough game. I love this game.
This is going to be a great one. Any final thoughts on this one?
Keep your eyes out, man. There could be fireworks. This could be a really, really fun game.
I know. This is going to be a fun one. But let's end off on the Sunday night primetime game. Basically, again, another playoff game in season. The New York Giants against the Washington Commanders.
Round 2.
Oh, man. So this game, I will say, for the Commanders, this is they played the Giants 2 weeks ago, had their bye week last week, and now they play the Giants again.
Rough spot for the Commanders, but it's even rougher with that tie. As soon as that tie happened, I said that could show someone out of the playoffs. And the Giants are on a downward spin. They're on a downward spin. The Commanders, luckily, they're coming off of a bye. But, my God, that tie hurts the both of them.
It makes this game that much more important.
Yes, it does.
Because right now, whoever wins this game would jump ahead of the other one in the playoff standings. Because right now, at this point in time, it's the Philly leads the division. They lead the entire NFC at 12-1. The Cowboys are 10-3 with the 5th seed firmly in their grasp. The Giants have the 6th seed, and the Commanders have the 7th seed. If the Commanders win this game, not only would the Commanders jump to the 6th seed ahead of the Giants, but the Giants would actually be in the hunt because they would be competing against Seattle, and they lost to Seattle earlier on in the season.
So that tie really fucks them.
That tie, but consider this, though. They would be fighting against Seattle. Seattle has the tiebreaker, but they would have one less loss than Seattle. So they would still be ahead of Seattle, but by half a game. But they would just be at that point, when your playoff hopes, you're hoping for other teams to lose, and just to make it to the playoffs, it's really tough because that's out of your control. And for my whole point of this is, if whoever loses this game, their playoff hopes are out of their own control.
Yeah, without a doubt. When you start getting into half game separation, winning you're in, you pick your own destiny. Like, this is why this from here out is so important, because so long as you keep winning games, you give yourself that chance. But when you start losing pinnacle games, like divisional games late in the season, and it starts becoming less and less in your control, it'll get to the point where you can win a huge game where you think you're in, and all of a sudden another team wins. It's like, sorry, you're out. And this could just easily happen to the Giants this season based on that tie. Not having that win that was a much-needed win, especially because it was a divisional opponent. Yes, it's very hard to sweep. You almost would rather a loss. So you have that full game versus a half game, and then it's out of your control.
Yeah. But
It's worse than a loss at this point.
we're talking big picture scope, what this means for teams in the playoffs. Let's zoom in on this game specifically. And we have a great reference to 2 weeks ago where they tied. Now, both teams played very well. Taylor Heineke, he played well, but man, asking him to throw 41 times a game, that is tough. He went 27 for 41, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions against the Giants. That's a pretty good stat line, but you couldn't cash out. You couldn't cash out that much. Daniel Jones, he went 25 for 31, 200 yards, but he also ran for 71 rushing yards versus Washington. And now, both, if you really look at it, that's kind of the same amount of total yardage between the two quarterbacks. They're kind of like almost identical in like how much yardage they just pick up for their team. But Saquon had a subpar game for that week. He went 18 for 63 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, again, it's good that he got the touchdown, but 63 yards and only 18 attempts. You gotta give Saquon a little bit more than that. Even like I get it. Later in the game, the Giants lost control of the game, and they needed to kind of claw and scratch their way back into that game. But you still got to give Saquon at least 20 to 23 touches a game, 25 if you can, because your team, the more Saquon runs, the better off the Giants are.
Right, because the less pressure is on Daniel Jones.
Exactly.
You kind of hit the nail on the head that they're kind of the same player, Daniel Jones and Taylor Heineke. What does that mean for Daniel Jones? It means Daniel Jones is a backup.
Or Taylor Heineke should be a starter.
Well, that argument can be made, but Daniel Jones is more of a backup than Taylor Heineke is a starter.
No, I agree with you. Yeah.
Taylor Heineke, he is a good backup. Mm-hmm. Daniel Jones is a true backup, if that makes sense. Taylor Heineke can come in and win you games. Daniel Jones, what you see is what you get. You just never know if he's going to win. He's like Mason Rudolph. Daniel Jones is Mason Rudolph.
Yeah.
What you see is what you get, and he probably isn't going to win you the game. He won't be the reason you win. Taylor Heineke is the reason Washington wins when they win offensively. Chase Young is the reason they have been winning since his return. He is a difference maker on that defense.
He is, and it's good that he's back on for Washington. But I will say some players to keep an eye out for. Terry McLaurin for Washington. He's an absolute
menace.
He's an absolute stud of a wide receiver. He loves primetime too. He showed out against the Eagles on primetime Monday Night Football. So when he's cooking, it's going to be a tough game for anyone against him. And you know who's got to go against him? The cornerback for the Giants, Julian Love, who's actually probably their best defensive player for the Giants. He wears number 20 or 22 on I forget off the top of my head, but he racked up against Washington. He racked up 7 tackles in that game. So he's a stellar player for the Giants. Also, another player to watch out for is Brian Robinson Jr. for a running back for Washington. Against the Giants 2 weeks ago, he ran 21 attempts for 96 yards. That's the numbers we want to see from Saquon. That's what we want to see. But the Washington was more committed to the run against the Giants, and they had more control of that game. They just couldn't cash out at the end. But this game, I don't think this is going to end in a tie. It's a winner take all in this one.
No, this is winner take all for sure. Someone's definitely going to put the nail in their proverbial coffin this week. And I think going into this game, I think the Commanders have a better chance.
I do too, man. They just at home in primetime. Ron Rivera, Brian Daboll. This is going to be again another chess match. It may not be whoever gets to 20, but whoever gets to 30 may seal it.
I could see 30 points going across the board for
But
them.
we'll see. This is going to be a great chess match for both teams, and it's a crucial playoff matchup.
Playoff game all the way. Playoff time. Playoffs are here, mate.
The playoffs are here, and hell, we got a lot of them this week. So, with that being said, those are our games that we wanted to talk about this week. We have some great matchups, a lot of New York teams. In fact, we actually talked about all New York teams this week, and it just kind of worked out that way. But nevertheless, let's move on to make some picks. So, Chris Palmer, you ready to make some picks this week?
Yeah, so let's start with the Thursday night game. San Francisco and Seattle.
Oh, man.
Brock Purdy, game 2.
Brock Purdy, start number 2, and this is for the division, actually. This is whoever takes this game leads the division in the NFC West. I'm going to go with the 49ers. I kind of like what I saw from Brock Purdy. I don't believe in, not so much in him, but the team around him. They're not going to ask a lot from him, but I think they're going to ask enough to win this game.
You know, I think I'm going to go with Seattle. They're more true to form. I'm going to give a little bit of faith in Geno Smith, 30 touchdowns. Can't really bat your head at that.
Hey, Geno Smith, shout out to him, man. He's been playing so well this year.
Yeah. Indy and Minnesota.
Ooh, this is the first Saturday game, and this is the 1:00 game for Saturday. So I'm gonna go with Minnesota. This should be a get right game for them. They've been slipping a little bit as of late, but I'm gonna go with Minnesota to win. But I think the Colts and Jeff Saturday, they play tough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to go with Minnesota. I agree with you again that Jeff Saturday is really turning around Indy. They play hard, but they're just not there yet. Minnesota is playoff contenders. Indy is on draft lotto pick contention. So, Baltimore and Cleveland.
Oh, I'm taking my Ravens, but I'm not feeling too confident about it, but I'm taking my Ravens. No Lamar. He's going to be out again for this week. It's going to be Tyler Huntley against Deshaun Watson. This is going to be one of those old school, ugly style games, but keep fingers crossed. Wouldn't blame you if you took the Browns, mate.
I think I'm going to have to go with the Browns on this one.
Okay.
You guys have not been playing up to what your roster is supposed to be.
We haven't.
You know, with or without Lamar, even with him, you guys have not been playing well.
No, but
well enough to win, but not well.
Not every game. It's either our offense is not playing well that day or our defense has not been playing well. But I will say this: since the acquisition of Roquan Smith, we've actually come to a top 10 defense. Within that time, obviously, in the totality of the season, we're still not a top 10 defense. But since getting Roquan Smith, he has been a difference maker for the Ravens.
Right. Miami and Buffalo.
Oh, man. The playoff game that starts this Sunday.
This is when.
This is Saturday,
starts.
actually.
This is Saturday night.
This is Saturday night. Who do you got, Chris Palmer?
This is tough.
This is real tough.
I'm going to go with Miami. I think that injury is too much on Josh Allen.
I'm going to go with the Bills. I don't think that it's going to hinder him too much because they've still been winning games, even while he's been injured. Again, I agree with you. The deep ball is not there, but it doesn't need to be there because they have that running game. So I'm sorry, T. I'm going with the Bills on this one.
Philly and Chicago.
Give me Philly all day, man. Philly
all day.
Philly all day.
Philly can't be stopped right now, and Chicago's not going to be the one to do it.
Absolutely not.
Detroit and New York.
Ooh. I'm going to go with Detroit. I like that they have the momentum. And that's, at this time of year, momentum is big. I'm going to take the Lions.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Lions as well. They're exciting. Jets are exciting too, but I think the loss of Quinn Williams is going to be huge on that defense. It's a huge hole. DeAndre Swift is going to blow up. Jameson Williams could have another huge game. Detroit's going to win this game. Pittsburgh and Carolina.
Do I have to ask for you?
Not really.
Oh, man. See, I do like the way Carolina played, but I don't know if I'm buying into that. I'll go with the Steelers.
this game is going to be ugly.
This is going to be ugly. Part of me says take the Panthers because you took the Browns, but I'll take the Steelers.
I won't be mad at you.
This is a game that they should win.
Yes. Kansas City, Houston.
Give me Kansas City all day.
Kansas City, but I'm keeping my eyes out for Houston.
They're going to be tough. They're going to be a tough team.
Atlanta and New Orleans.
I don't know what to expect from either one of these teams, man. Like I really don't know what to expect.
Calling the third tie of the year.
It very well might be. I'm going to take the Saints. I think given enough time from that, from that horrible loss against Tom Brady, they have enough time. They have a divisional opponent. They're a little healthy. I'll take the Saints just because.
I mean, I guess I'll play devil's advocate and I'll pick Atlanta. But again, there's not much with this game. Dallas and Jacksonville.
I do want to watch this game, man. This is going to be, I think, a closer game than either of them would like, but it's going to be decided in the fourth. Whoever separates in the fourth, and I think that's going to be Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
They just look like they're playing a different game of football where their style is so physical, so tough, and it's just so tough for teams to go against them. But I do want to watch this game. Give me Dallas.
I'm going to take Dallas as well. But again, my eyes are open for Jacksonville, man. They're going to keep it close. They're going to keep it fun. Arizona and Denver, no Kyler Murray. Colt McCoy
is Russell
starting.
Wilson in? Because he got injured last week.
He got knocked unconscious last week.
Yeah.
I don't know. But Colt McCoy is set to start for Arizona.
I'll take Arizona. Colt McCoy, I guess, has a little bit more starting reps, but I really don't know what to expect from this game either. Both teams are playing hurt. Both teams are underachieving. And both teams are, I mean, Arizona's still mathematically there, but they're basically eliminated. But I'll take Arizona.
I'm going to take Arizona too, but this game is pretty much going to be a wash. This is not going to be a good game to watch. New England and Las Vegas. Another game where it's like, don't know what to expect here.
I know what to expect here. This is Master Apprentice, Belichick versus Josh McDaniels. An under-talented New England team against an overly talented but yet underachieving Raiders team. I'm going to take New England because typically there's just this rule of thumb that I have where it's just if there's a coach and then a coach that from like an assistant coach that moves on to another head coach to play that head coach, I take the master over the apprentice.
All right, I'm going to go with New England, almost not because of master and apprentice, but because of even though they're under talent, Bill Belichick is Bill Belichick, and it's just going to outcoach.
That loss to the Rams was ugly
loss, but I'm going to go with New England on this one. Tennessee and the Chargers.
So who you got on this one?
I think I'm going to go with the Chargers on this one. Actually, I think they're more well-rounded, and fit for a win right now than Tennessee.
I am also going to go with the Chargers. I just think, again, momentum. That was a good, solid win by the Chargers, and they're getting healthy at the right time. I'll take them.
Okay. Cincy and Tampa.
Oh, this game is going to be a wash. It's Cincinnati all day. Even though I kind of want Brady to win because fuck the Bengals, but
no, the Bucks are not in the same league.
I got to be honest. Yeah, exactly. The Bucks are just not in the same league as the Bengals right now. Bengals are playing too good right now.
The Bengals are disgusting right now, and the Bucks are just hard to watch. Giants and Washington prime time.
I'm going to take Washington, man. I like how they've been playing under Taylor Heineke. They're 6-1-1 this season. They can't argue with that.
No.
Like they're like the Jets with Mike White. They really rally behind this quarterback, who may not be the best. He may not have the best arm or anything like that. He he wins. He wins games, and I'm going to take Washington.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Washington too. Because of Taylor Heineke, because of Chase Young bringing in that defense together. Washington's set to win right now. They are ready. They're primed and ready to go. And finally, the Rams and Green Bay. I feel like when it comes to programming, they thought this game was going to be a lot better, being that it's Monday night.
Well, they make the schedule months in advance, and I think everyone thought that this would be two playoff teams ready and primed for the playoffs, making a playoff push. But now we get two teams that are ready to make
lotto pick.
I was going to say another push somewhere else, but but oh man, this who you have for this one? Are you going to go with Baker?
No.
You're not going to go with Baker?
No, I'm going to go with Green Bay and hope that the salty old man beats up the bad attitude.
I am also going to go with Green Bay because I think there's a stat out there where it's teams that have like a significant comeback from like 14 points down to the last 5 minutes and make the comeback. They are 0-19 the following week.
Okay.
So that was a significant comeback for the Rams. I don't think that's going to carry over into this week.
No. All right, guys. There you have it. There's our picks for the week. Very fun week. Please leave a like, a comment. Feel free to subscribe. This is going to be a fun week. I hope you're ready because I know we are.
We are absolutely ready, and we'll catch you next week.
Yes, thank you, guys.